Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Hey, thank you very much for tuning in. It's Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. And I'm Dennis, DR, the interview guy. With us from back east, we have Hana Shafi talking about, among other things, her most recent release called People You Know, Places You've Been. So yes, Hana, thank you. We finally caught up to each other. So thanks for being with us today.
I'm so glad to finally be here and chat with you.
That's great. So let's get right to your career as a youngster. Which came first for you, drawing or writing? Because you do both.
I would say it was probably writing. I used to draw a lot, but I kind of didn't think I was drawing because I was doodling on everything. And I was like, it's doodling, it's not drawing. I don't know how to draw. And then my sort of understanding of art obviously developed over the years, and I realized that like weird cartoony stuff is art too. Because, you know, as a kid, for me, art was like you're painting a oil painting still life of an apple.
Right.
And my little doodles in my notebook, you know, could not sort of hold up to that. So so I would say, yeah, it was the writing first, but the drawing was always sort of pleasantly in the background.
Gotcha. And before we go any farther, who is the Frizz Kid?
Oh, that's me. I am the Frizz Kid. Frizz Kid is my artist name. Honestly, mainly comes from the fact that I have big, curly, frizzy hair. So I was kind of trying to embrace that because it was always something that embarrassed me when I was a kid.
Oh, no.
And now I'm sort of, I'm into it. And I guess the kid part just mentally, I don't want to grow up.
No, neither do I. So that makes two of us. So Hana Shafi's with us. You came to Canada, your family from Dubai in 1996. Do you remember?
Yes,
how old were you back then? Were you just a little babe in arms?
Yeah, I was just a little baby. I was 2, just turning 3. So I remember, like, there's pictures from my 3rd birthday, and we just bought a house here, and the house is like, it's empty. Like, I had just turned 3 when we moved, and I have my little Hunchback of Notre Dame cake on like a moving box.
So you came from Dubai. Do you know why the family moved to Canada and especially to the GTA?
So most of my family's in Dubai right now, but we're not originally from there. My dad's family grew up in India. My dad is like 3rd or 4th generation Indian. My mom was born and raised in Pakistan, but her parents were actually from Iran. So we've sort of been a people that have moved around quite a bit and have a very sort of unique, mixed and muddled culture. But the thing about living in the UAE is it's very hard to get citizenship there, and you can only really get citizenship through your father, who has to already have citizenship. And because my father is Indian, as an Indian national, he was not able to get citizenship, and neither were his kids. Not the best system. And so he was kind of like, all right, upward and onward to better things. And I don't know exactly why he picked Canada. I think we had a couple of family friends here who said that it was, you know, a good place to raise a family. I mean, when I was a kid in Mississauga, it was like so empty. You know, I remember like 5 minutes from the house, there were like farm fields and stuff, which apparently really enraptured me as a kid, according to my parents.
Okay. So when did you realize, moving forward a bit, when did you realize you were pretty good at this writing and drawing, doodling thing?
Well, the writing, I realized I had a knack for it early because my teachers always really encouraged me with writing, and so did my parents. I was writing all the time, and I would get really like good grades in English and all that. And my father is a very avid reader, and he would buy me books all the time. So I read a ton, and I wanted to be like, these authors that I was reading, and I wanted to come up with these fantastical stories and things. And then I was drawing and stuff all through high school, but again, I didn't really take myself seriously as an artist. I knew that I really liked doing it, but I didn't think that I had the sort of technical skill or capacity to turn it into a career or to do anything with it. But in university, I began to explore it a lot more as something therapeutic, something that I could do outside of my classes that, I wasn't being graded on. It was just for me. And I think that's when I really started to fall into my own style and sort of hone my own creativity. And then things like reading a lot of comics and stuff helped, because I realized that I liked the sort of cartoon style of a lot of my favorite comics, and that also really, really helped.
What are some of your favorite comics, or graphic novels as we call them these days?
Well, I got really into Batman in high school, and obviously most comic book art style is a particular kind of style. I don't know how to explain what it is, but I'm sure if you envision a comic in your head, you see that style. But I had read a Batman graphic novel called Arkham Asylum, Serious House on Serious Earth, and it had this really weird, abstract style. And I didn't know that a graphic novel, that a comic about a superhero could look like that. It almost looked like it was painted. It was so strange and kind of scary, super scary. And as I started exploring that, I started realizing that there were other comic books like this that employed a completely different artistic style to tell the story. Another one of my favorites for the drawings and just for the general story is the American Vampire series by Scott Snyder, I believe, which is, super fun and horror-filled, and has got some really, really cool moments in it that, again, broaden my horizons, that things don't necessarily have to look realistic for it to be art. It can be a little bit disjointed. It can be a little bit otherworldly. So yeah, those were, and Watchmen by Alan Moore was another one.
Those are kind of like your early influences, one would say?
Yeah, I would say those were early influences. I read most of those in high school. American Vampire, I wasn't out when I was in high school, I don't think. So I think I read that in university.
So what is your daily routine? Now, do you have a daily routine? Is drawing and illustrating your full-time job, or do you have other sources of income, shall we say?
Yeah, I have a day job,
no.
but my day job still lets me do the creative stuff because it's graphic design. So I'm very thankful for that. And drawing, writing, or any sort of creative thing is always sort of a part of my day. Usually at the end of the day, if I don't have plans, I'll pop on a TV show or a movie and just start doodling and drawing and coloring in one of my notebooks. Or if I feel like writing, I'll kind of writing is a little bit harder for me to do to relax, because there's more pressure almost. With my drawings, I can just kind of scribble in a sketchbook and then close it if I don't like it. But with writing, somehow seeing that blank cursor is oh no, it's very intimidating. But it is definitely, there's always something creative part. There's always a creative part of my day.
Talking about creative parts, we've got People You Know, Places You've Been. That's your latest work, but you have other books out there as well. Can you tell us about those?
Mm-hmm. So my first book is called It Begins with the Body. It's also poetry and illustration, just like the third book. And my second book is a little different. It is a compilation of essays, and there is also art in it. There is particularly digital art from an artistic series I did that was all about mental health sort of affirmations, and that sort of leans more to the writing is casual and funny and not essays in like the boring sense that some people might interpret when they hear the word essay. But yeah, and then for my third book, I really wanted to get back to poetry.
And you do have a quirky sense of humor kind of runs through all of your poems. Is that just something that you've always had, do you think?
Oh, yes, very much so. I don't know that I can really, take myself seriously. So I asked the reader to not take me too seriously either.
Okay. Now, one of the works you've talked about affirmations. What do you talk about, or what do you mean when you say an affirmation? What is that to you?
So they were little sort of clips, like little pieces of art that were just about affirming people where they're at, even if where they're at is messy or, difficult or, unappealing in some way. It was about sort of recognizing that you don't have to be productive all the time, that you can rest, that you can make mistakes, that you can stumble, and that's a very normal, important part of life, which I think sometimes people forget because, things are so fast-paced and there's all this kind of very, go, go, go mentality. So that art was sort of meant to be sort of a way to take it slow almost, and to remind people that it was okay to take it slow.
It is, and just take things one day at a time, one moment at a time, and just don't rush. If I could go back 60 years, I would tell myself that. Just slow down. Don't be so quick to jump from one thing to another, because you don't know what's going to be there, so just kind of think about it a bit. So tell us a bit, switch topics a little bit here. Hana Shafi from back east, the mysterious east, as in Toronto, the Toronto area. So what's your favorite food, if you have one?
Oh, geez, my favorite food. That's hard to say because I love food.
Yes.
Okay, right now my favorite food is momos, which is like these dumplings. A momo place opened up in my neighborhood, and now I just keep going there and getting dumplings. They're so good. And another all-time favorite is ramen.
Oh.
And there's a lot of great ramen places in Toronto, so I'm glad for that.
How about music? You got favorite music or favorite groups or artists that you like?
Music is hard. I really mean it when I say I'm one of those people who likes a lot of genres. Some people say, I like all genres except country, but I really like country.
I do too, because
I like a lot.
A lot of the songs are stories in themselves, so more so than other forms, I think.
They tend to sort of weave a very immersive narrative. In terms of current favorites, oof, that's hard. I guess one of for all-time favorites, I do really love Pink Floyd. I go back to Pink Floyd's music a lot. Amy Winehouse is another one that's very, very big for me. Hole, which is Courtney Love's band, is another sort of pivotal part of my soundtrack. But I mean, I also will just listen to anything. I have a soft spot for 90s pop, because it reminds me of my childhood. So,
right.
Britney Spears, Spice Girls, all that kind of stuff.
Tell you what you want to be, or what? Well, I can't remember how it goes, but I can name them.
Enough.
There's posh spice, baby spice, ginger spice, sporty spice, and scary spice.
That's correct.
Yay! And movies, got any favorite?
Spice was always my favorite.
Oh, good. Got any favorite movies out there?
Oh, yeah. Lord of the Rings is a big one for me. I love Lord of the Rings. My dad took me to see the first movie when I was 8 years old, and I didn't quite understand what was going on, but I knew I loved it. And it's been something I've been very attached to ever since. Obviously, I read them when I got a little bit older, and I have a little mini collection of rare copies of Lord of the Rings that I really treasure and that I don't let anyone touch. So Lord of the Rings is a big one for me, but I also really like a lot of horror. So another one that was a big part of my childhood was Lost Boys, the Joel Schumacher movie with Kiefer Sutherland. I still love that movie. Beetlejuice is another big one. It actually used to really scare me as a kid. I was really scared of Beetlejuice, and now I appreciate appreciate him a little bit more. The Alien franchise is another one.
So you go back a ways with your movie favorites. That's good.
Oh yeah, it's definitely my dad's influence. I watched a lot of these movies with him. Another one is The Thing. John Carpenter is probably one of my favorite directors.
Gotcha.
So, The Thing is what I consider like one of the best movies of all time.
The Thing, the John Carpenter's The Thing, you think it's one of
Yeah, John Carpenter's, yeah.
Wow. That goes back to the early one in the early 50s, The Thing from Another World with James Arness as a carrot-topped monster, but that's...
Yeah. And then John Carpenter kind of revived it and made it pretty creepy.
Oh, yeah, it is. You're published by Book Hug Press. What can you tell us about them? They seem to be quite progressive these days.
Oh, yeah, they're wonderful. This is my third book with them, and I really, really enjoy working with Jay and Hazel, and it's just a great team, and I have a lot of love for indie presses. It can be really hard being with an indie press because publishing is really dominated by, a few big major publishing houses.
Oh, yeah.
But I think indie presses are so important and so vital to the literary community. They keep things fresh. They give people chances that you might otherwise have never heard from. I mean, when they published my first book, I didn't really have much else going on. I wasn't a recognizable name in any sense of the word. So I appreciate them a lot for giving me that first chance and for continuing to, embrace all of my writing.
And the book that we have in our hands right now is People You Know, Places You've Been by Hana Shafi. What do you have coming up next? Or do you have anything planned?
Well, right now I'm trying to learn how to write long-form fiction. It's very hard for me. It's totally not in my wheelhouse. I've been trying to write this particular story for the past 2 years, and I'm really struggling. So I'm taking a class next year, a novel writing class, because I think a little bit of guidance would do me good. But I'm just sort of working on that personally. There's no deadline, and I'd like to keep it that way for a little while because I think I have a lot of learning to do in order to sort of get into a new genre and a new type of writing. So trying to follow my own advice and take it slow.
Okay, good idea. People You Know, Places You've Been by Hana Shafi. What do you hope people will take away from this work?
I really want people to take away, first of all, empathy, just understanding that there's this just absolute wealth and diversity of life around you. And even though we're sort of wrapped up in our own world, you have no idea what's going on in the life of someone that you just passed by on the street. And this can be like a beautiful thing. It lends so much mystery and adventure and whimsy to the world around you. But it should also make you think about others. And I also hope it'll get people to understand that, these everyday connections, however small, are actually a really, really beautiful and integral part of your life. We sort of shrug it off. Maybe you think, oh, it's not important. The people I passed by or the person I met today and had a little chat with at the grocery store. But those things actually lend a lot of beauty to our days. And I think a lot more people realized that during lockdown and stuff, during the height of the pandemic, because suddenly all those little moments and everyday connections were taken away. And I think a lot of people, including myself, realized that I had really taken it for granted.
And Hana Shafi's with us. Just before we wrap it up, you've had 3 books now under your belt. What kind of, based on your experiences, what kind of advice can you pass on to other young writers or writers and artists, doodlers that are starting out?
Find your voice, and even if you think your voice is weird or not marketable or something like that, stick to your voice. Don't try to be, someone else. And read a lot, draw a lot, write a lot, make something every day, even if it's crap. Crap is good. You got to get through the crap to get to something good. So just keep going. Good
advice. Well, thank you very much for being with us, and continued good luck. I really enjoyed People You Know, Places You've Been, and the quirky art. I keep saying that, I don't know why, but it's just a joy, as somebody says on the cover, a joy to read, and it is. So again, thank you for being with us, and continued good luck.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.